meeting of the Cobb County Board of Zoning Appeals. And as is our custom at this time, I'm going to ask Officer Ott to please come forward. Officer Ott is here representing all our first responders with Cobb County, and he's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So if we'd all please rise. Officer Ott will lead us in the pledge. Thank you, Officer Ott. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that are here for the first time, let me give you a little insight on how we're going to conduct the meeting today. The first thing that we were going to concern ourselves with is the consent agenda. These are applications that not only this board has reviewed, but our professional and engineering staff has also reviewed them. To our knowledge, there's no known opposition to any of these particular cases. So as we go forward, Mr. John Peterson, our head zoning administrator, will read each case into the record. And as he does, as your name is called, if you would, raise your hand to identify yourself. Likewise, if there's anybody here in opposition to any of these particular cases, if they would raise their hand and identify themselves, and if we do have any opposition, we will pull that particular case and hear it in its regular numeric order. Our next course of business will be the regular cases. These are cases that will be heard today. Again, Mr. Peterson will read these into the record. Again, you, the applicant, will identify yourself by raising your hand. Likewise, if there's anybody in opposition, they will identify themselves. Our officer today is Ms. Bates, and anybody that's going to give testimony, Ms. Bates is going to call you forward. You're all going to be sworn in, and all your comments and testimony will be given to the podium to my right. At that time, the applicant will have a 10-minute period to make their presentation to this board, and likewise and collectively, those in opposition will also have a 10-minute period to make their opposition known to this board. So remember, you only have a 10-minute time period. If you have more than one speaker, be cognizant of the fact that you only have a 10-minute period. With that said, I think, John, do you have any special announcements or any announcements to make?
I do have one announcement, Mr. Chairman, before we start the hearing. I would like to ask people in today's audience, if you have a cell phone, please turn the volume off on your cell phone. The ringing does interfere with the broadcast presentations. So if you have a cell phone, please turn the volume off. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm ready to start the consent agenda.
Let's jump right in.
Thank you. Cobb County Board of Zoning Appeals, variance hearing consent agenda for June 12, 2019. Variance case V49, Bethany United Methodist Church. Request a variance to reduce the side setback adjacent to the east property line from required 50 feet to 10 feet, which is existing. To reduce the landscape screening buffer abutting a residential property line adjacent to the east property line from required 35 feet to 5 feet, which is existing. And to waive the requirement for an electronic sign to be placed on an arterial roadway to allow the proposed electronic sign to be placed on a major road in land lot 23 of the 17th District. The property is located at the northeast intersection of Hicks Road and Hurt Road. Staff recommends approval, subject to the following condition. Encroachments as shown on the site plan received by the Zoning Division on March 14, 2019. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V49? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V51, Monty Johnson requests a variance to allow parking and/or maneuvering of vehicles on a non-hardened and treated surface, which is a proposed gravel paved system in land lot 973 of the 17th District. The property is located on the south side of Paces Ferry Road, east of Randall Road. Staff recommends approval, subject to the following conditions. Email from Ms. Ashley White dated June 6, 2019, and stormwater management comments. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V51? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V52, Altair Sign and Light, request a variance to reduce the minimum number of parking spaces from required 20 parking spaces to 12 parking spaces, and that is an existing condition. To reduce the required setback for a freestanding sign from the center line of an arterial road right-of-way requires 62 feet to 40 feet, and to reduce the sign setback off the right-of-way from 1 foot to 0 feet in land lots 1244 and 1245 of the 16th District. The property is located on the south side of Lower Roswell Road, east of Shawnee Lane. Staff recommends approval, subject to the following condition. The zoning division manager to approve the parking plan if an additional parking space is lost due to a revised sign location. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V52? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V55, Martha McGee Gleason requests a variance to allow parking and/or maneuvering of vehicles on a non-hardened or paved surface, and to allow an accessory structure to be located to the side of the primary structure, and that is an existing detached garage in land lots 1048, 1049, 1098, and 1099 of the 19th District. The property is located at the southwest intersection of Lewis Road and Meadows Road. Staff recommends approval, subject to traffic comments to be completed within 6 months. The applicant is present. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V55? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Variance case V56, Wilson's Classic Homes Incorporated requests a variance to reduce the front setback from required 35 feet to 25 feet in land lot 1008 of the 19th District. The property is located at the northern terminus of Sparrowhawk Place, north of McDuffie Road. Staff recommends approval. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V56? Let the record show there's no one opposed, and that completes the consent agenda, Mr. Chairman and Board.
Okay, it's back to this board for comments, questions. Any comments on any of the things? Not hearing any, I'll entertain a motion. Oh, you have it?
I do.
You do?
I have some questions.
Okay, hit your mic. Fred, if you would, go ahead, tell us what you want.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today, earlier, I was provided a copy of the landscape license punch list regarding the Bethany United Methodist Church sign. And I just had some questions about that, and I just want the record to reflect that I referred those to both Ashley White and to the county attorney's office regarding, my question is whether anybody has looked into the sufficiency of the dollar amounts of these licenses. Right now, we're carrying $100,000, we're requiring $100,000 general liability, auto liability, and workers' comp combined single limit for both bodily injury and property damage. So my question was really one as to whether anybody in the county government has taken a look into the sufficiency of that, whether there have been any incidents where somebody's been injured as a result of the existence of a sign close to a road, and whether there should be some report back maybe before the end of the year to this group, so we can consider the adequacy of these measures in the future, or is this just a purely a very extreme precaution that we're taking, or cautious measure that we're taking where the risk is exceedingly low? So that's really what I'm asking, particularly in light of the way the phraseology was worded. It said, it literally said placing it on a road, which I don't take to be correct. I think it's some distance from the road. And maybe I can get Ashley to comment on that as well.
So is the question, is this what the county is requiring them to keep these insurance premiums up? Is that what you're asking us?
That's it. I'm really just wanting two things. First, I didn't like the phraseology of the motion, which is made in such a manner that it suggests the sign is on the road. And I think, in fact, it's many feet from any paved surface. So that's a fact question. And my second question concerns just a request to the county that somebody look into and advise this group on whether or not the coverage limits that were in place in 2010 are still deemed adequate when we take these type of policies as a condition of providing a variance.
All right, Ashley, first of all, tell us who you are.
Ashley White with the Department of Transportation.
Go right ahead.
So this landscape license has been in place since 2010. We can certainly review some of the wording, as you said, with, I think it mentioned the sign being on the road and not offset from the road.
That was the wording of the motion here today before
Oh,
us.
okay. Well, the sign is about, I think I measured about 19 feet from the edge of pavement. And usually when we give these landscape license, it's reviewed by traffic ops, so they make sure the sign is outside of the clear zone and don't cause any kind of safety issues. So
Okay.
that part has already been reviewed.
Right.
But as far as the liability insurance, that's something we'll have to look into further with the legal department. But those dollar amounts have been in place for years, and they may need to be updated, but that's something that we'll have to consult with the legal team about.
Okay, thank you. And then my other questions though were whether, given the fact that the sign is 19 feet from any paved roadbed, I don't know whether it sits uphill or downhill from it. Are you aware of any other instances in the last however many years you've been with the county? I guess you could identify that where any sign has been hit by a vehicle?
Not that I'm aware of. I've been with
Okay.
the county 3 years. I can only speak from what I've heard over that 3-year period. I'm not aware of anything like that happening. But we do, the sign is sitting uphill, and we do use AASHTO standards to make sure it's outside of that clear zone, so it won't cause a safety issue. And it was set a good distance away from the edge of pavement where it's outside of that clear zone.
And just due to my ignorance, can you give me an idea of what you consider that clear zone to be, or how big
It
you consider it to be?
it was a range. I think it was 11 to 15 feet, but I don't have that in front of me, so don't quote me on it. But it's based on the speed of the roadway and how many lanes are on the road and things of that nature. So I did check that, and it was outside of that clear zone requirement. But I think it went up to 15 feet from the edge of pavement, from what I recall.
Thank you.
I see Mr. Johns is here, the applicant. Is there anything you want to add to that, sir? Let's get you sworn in. If you would identify yourself, please, first.
Yes, I'm Ronald Johns. I'm Chairman of Trustees at Bethany United Methodist Church in Smyrna, edge of Smyrna. Well, I was going to add what Ashley had said, that the sign is uphill, and I've been going to the church since 2000. There has not been an incident, and I have not been told of any incidents prior to that. It's sufficiently off the road as far as I know, and we've not had any difficulties with anybody having any problems with it.
Thank you.
Okay?
All right, just to kind of follow up, Bill Boring with the county attorney's office, my understanding is that all contracts go through or are reviewed by the county attorney, and I'm sure in this case it has been reviewed. Is that correct or not?
Well, there's probably a form that was reviewed at some
Yes.
point in time, not that particular one. But we'll be happy to have our risk management department that actually looks at these liability issues regarding insurance and what the proper amounts would be, and talk to their engineers at DOT and see what a good amount would be. It'd be fine for us to be able to revisit that, and we'll be able to make sure that comes back to the board and report to it.
Okay.
Can I just note that I talked to Mr. Rowling immediately prior to this meeting, and his comment was that the balance to strike is one where we don't place an undue burden on the applicants, but yet we look out for the interest of the public and the taxpayer. So I appreciate that comment, and I appreciate that you folks will do a good assessment in that regard.
Okay, any other comments from board members? Then at this time, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make that motion.
Okay, I got a motion. And a
second.
second from Monique. All those
the wrong
signify by voting. Let's all vote. Yes, there we go. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to vote to approve the consent agenda 5-0, Madam Secretary. So those of you that were on the consent agenda, your business is complete with us for today. You're welcome to stay. You're welcome to leave. If you leave, please leave quietly, and we'll continue on. Thank you all. Have a nice day. All right, John, as the crowd quietly leaves the church, let's continue on. What's our next one?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next case is variance case V53, Juanita Galvin, request a variance to reduce the rear setback for an accessory structure over 144 square feet for an approximately 406 square foot proposed gazebo, required 35 feet to 19 feet, to reduce the rear setback for an accessory structure over 144 square feet for an approximately 364 square foot existing wood building, required 35 feet to 11 feet, and to reduce the side setback for an accessory structure over 144 square feet for an approximately 364 square foot existing wood building, required 10 feet to 5 feet adjacent to the south property line in land lot 204 of the 19th District. The property is located on the west side of Villa Court, south of La Villa Drive. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V53? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Would the applicant please come forward to be sworn in?
Okay, that's fine. All right, first of all, the translator, if you would identify yourself, please, first.
Maria Hernandez,
Okay, and then have her pronounce her name.
Juanita.
Okay? Tell us what you want. Tell us what you're here for.
¿Qué es lo que les quieres decir? I'm so sorry, primero.
Okay, now look, you see your picture up there? You see at your house? Is that your house?
Sí.
Your
Ese es
property?
su
Okay,
casa.
now go ahead and explain to
Yes.
us that. We all know
Okay.
what we're looking
Dice que
at.
le expliques lo que quieres.
Dile, quiero que me disculpen porque estamos haciendo una palapa que no sabíamos que teníamos que pedir un permiso. Entonces la empezamos a construir, pero
Yeah, she say first of all she wants to apologize for building something that she didn't know she needed a permit for. That will be the gazebo, and she say that they're building it on the corner because we have a septic tank on the yard, so there's no way to put it on anywhere else. And she didn't know she needed a permit to build that gazebo because she's not gonna have water or electricity on that.
Now, the gentleman that's behind you, let's go to the gazebo. Show us where the gazebo is there.
Él les va a enseñar dónde está la palabra.
Near the house? Kind of different construction.
It's in the back, isn't it?
No, it's on the corner of the back of the house, on the other side of the building. No, it's on the very back, at the corner of the back of the yard. Yeah, right there.
All right, so this picture does not show the gazebo, but you have a gazebo there. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Okay. And you didn't get a permit for it? You didn't know you needed a permit?
no, because we're doing an addition to the house. I'll live with her.
Yeah.
So we're doing an addition to the house, and
Right.
since we had extra material and stuff, we started building into one. We didn't know we needed a permit until one of the inspectors that came to do an inspection told us that we didn't have a permit for that.
Right. And you're on a septic tank on that property, is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Anything else you'd like to tell us?
¿Qué más quieres decirles?
pues como que es lo que tengo que hacer.
Yeah, she say what else
Sí,
that she
that-
has to do to keep on working on it because he's not done yet.
Okay? Anything else?
Algo más?
No, pues que estoy dispuesta a lo que ellos me
No, she say she's here to
Okay,
for what
thank
you
you.
have to say.
Thank you. And for the purpose of the record, is anybody here in opposition to case V53? Seeing and not hearing anybody, it's back to this board for discussion. Fred, this is your district, so if you would, please lead us in that discussion.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And first, if the interpreter could please explain, I reviewed the application here, and this is the only application I've seen this is my 6th month with this board. It's the first application I've seen where both the phone number provision on the application and the email address were filled out. The only thing filled out in there was the letters NA. So are you folks willing to provide us with contact information so we can get in touch with you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because I'd like to visit this before and make a full presentation to this group of the facts I find before we make a decision.
Okay.
Are you willing to arrange for such a meeting where I can get out there and see
Yes.
this? Okay. Are you willing to get us some sort of contact information?
Yes.
Yes.
What's the best way to do that, Mr. Chairman?
Well, and you want to, I assume you want to go to the property, is that what you want to do?
Yeah, yes.
Well,
yes.
then we'll continue the case then.
Oh, we will, but first, can you just write down some contact information, maybe
Sure.
the interpreter where I can get a hold of you?
Yes.
If you could just write that down and provide that to,
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, ladies,
Thank you.
generally what's happened is what Fred is talking about, when we receive an application, we always get the person's name and their telephone number. In your case, you never gave us that information,
Oh,
so
goodness,
there was
when-
nothing we could do in advance. And what we do as a group here, we go out and look at all the properties, try to see if there's any specific problems or
Yeah,
anything that
we
we can help you with or not help you with. But
Yeah.
in this case, we didn't have that information.
Yeah, I don't know
So-
how that happened.
So I think what Fred is probably going to do is continue this case for 30 days to schedule a time to go out and look at the property and make sure everything else is okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah, we have to hold it. That's right. We have to hold it because we have heard the case. Yes. we can
Okay.
do.
that's good.
And so when you leave, before you leave, Ms. Bates, right there, if you would give her your telephone number, your address, and all the information that we need.
Okay.
yeah,
this is
and
good.
with the understanding you will need to come back again next month.
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Okay. Thank
So,
you.
Thank you.
Okay.
thank you.
We'll entertain a motion then.
Yeah, at this time, I'd make the motion to hold case number V53 and to have these people report back to us at our regular July hearing.
All right, got a motion. I've got a second to hold this case for 30 days until our next scheduled meeting, and we'll all vote on that. Okay, our ruling is that we will hold this case for 30 days till our next scheduled meeting. So you'll be scheduled to come back. Before you leave, Ms. Bates will give you all the information. Thank you. John, what's our next one?
Yes, sir. Variance case V54, Tim Lupo requests a variance to reduce the rear setback from required 35 feet to 26 feet, and to reduce the side setback for a wood deck from required 5 feet to 3 feet, which is existing, adjacent to the west property line and land lot 332 of the 20th District. The property is located on the southwest corner of Creek Court and Forest Creek Drive, south of Kennesaw View Drive. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed to variance case V54? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Would the applicant please come forward to be sworn in?
All right, fellas, if you would identify yourself, please.
My name's Kurt Martin. I'm with DC Enclosures, sunroom company in Kennesaw.
Okay,
I'm Tim Lupo, the property owner.
property owner, okay. Go ahead, fellas, tell us what you want.
We are applying for a variance in order to tear down an existing sunroom at the rear of the home and replace it with a new sunroom. The building footprint will not change. Basically, we're just taking down the old one and putting up a brand-new one. The current structure is old. I think it's about 30 years old. It leaks. It's not structurally sound. And the new sunroom is going to be built to code and be energy efficient, and something that the Lupos can actually use. Regarding the deck, I'm not sure exactly what that's about. That's unrelated completely to our project. So it was not part of our variance application.
All right. Anything else? You got 3 decks there. Have you explained all 3 decks? If you look at
Well, they
the
were existing,
survey,
right,
might help.
there were existing decks.
Okay,
And they were there when you bought the house?
They were there when we bought the home about 2 years ago. It's kind of a 3-tiered structure leading away from the sunroom towards the west end of the property. And those have been there for the full period. There's no intention to change anything about those with the current project.
you're not going to cover the decks or anything else? Anything else you'd like to tell us?
Don't believe so.
That's about it.
Okay, for the purpose of the record, again, is there anybody here wishing to speak in opposition to case 54, V54? Hearing and not seeing anybody, it's back to this board for discussion. Fred, again, this is your district. If you would, please lead us in the discussion.
Yes, gentlemen, from the pictures we've just been given, if you could just confirm to us that that is your house.
It is indeed.
Okay, and it's wooded, roughly as depicted in this picture?
I'm sorry?
It's wooded in the manner as depicted in this picture? It's fairly heavily wooded?
It is, yes.
Okay. And there would be already something of a natural landscape buffer thus in place between your proposed structure, the finished sunroom or porch structure, and the back property line. Is that fair to say?
That is correct, and there's also a 6-foot privacy fence that encompasses the rear portion of the entire property.
Okay, and importantly, to be just completely clear, you're proposing to replace and essentially replace and renew or rebuild what was an existing structure that's been there for 30 years.
That is correct.
Okay. And has anybody ever complained to you about the existence of that structure or, okay. All right, that's all I have. I'm ready to make a motion.
I don't think anybody else has a comment. Go right ahead.
Okay. The motion would be to approve the variance as requested, subject only to my additional condition that the structure be built precisely where the existing sunroom is and has been for the past 30 years.
You're okay with that?
Absolutely.
All right, I've got a motion. Do I
I'll
have a second?
second.
I have a second. Let's call for the vote. All right, guys, your lucky day, 5-0. You're finished, clear. You can smile.
Thank you
and
very
walk out-
much.
Walk out the door. Thank you very much. Have a great day. John, last one, 58, I believe.
Variance case V58, Mark Kukowski requests a variance to reduce the setbacks for a detached accessory structure over 1,000 square feet for a proposed 1,200 square foot garage from required 100 feet to 50 feet adjacent to the south property line and the 30 feet, which was previously granted to 95 feet in V53 of 2018 from the rear property line in land lot 192 and 193 of the 20th district. The property is located on the west side of County Line Road, south of Pitner Road. Is the applicant present? Let the record show the applicant is here. Is there anyone here opposed? The variance case at V58? Let the record show there's no one opposed. Would the applicant please come forward to be sworn in?
All right, sir, tell us who you
Very
are.
good to see you again.
Tell us who you are.
My name is Mark Krakowski, sir.
And Mark, tell us what you're here for. What are you asking for?
Well, what I'm asking for, if you look on the screen up there,
Right.
I had already done another variance last July, and on the proposed side of the building, when I cleared the land and everything like that, what had happened was Reader's Digest version. On the back side of the property, I'm asking to be able to build a 30 by 40 structure.
Right.
And because of the way that the land and the slope and everything is, I've had about 3 graders come out. And so I'm asking for 50 feet from this property line here on the south side to 30 feet from the back property line, which is the west side, and then maintain the 12 feet on the other side. And that's allowed me to slide the building as the graders come in, because the way the land is, I can't get an exact from all of them. You know, they say it needs to be put here, but I'm just asking in that area, I can build the structure.
So you're looking for us to grant a variance for a large area, but you don't know exactly where it's going to go. Is that what you're telling us?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's a little unusual. We don't see that often up here.
Right, because what happened on the first variance is I had originally requested, 12 feet and then like to the build line, which was on the north side. Once the land was cleared, the proposed site, if you look on that, it said 95 feet from the rear property line, which put it right up to the proposed end of the building, which meant when the land was cleared, the building would have had to been pushed back to begin with, and I couldn't do it without doing another variance. And they came in and said, the concrete, everybody like that, the builders, to build for Cobb County, to get an engineer to bring the dirt in, the cement, build the wall, put the extra metal and everything in it, and all the dirt was going to be about $30,000 just for the foundation for the structure. But they said, if you can move it, spin it over here, then we can do it for 13,000. You know, and both of them work for me, and I, you know, really, you know, I like it back there also. And, you know, Fred came out and we walked and we talked and we showed and, you know, did all that great stuff. But one part that he had asked was, you know, that I put like trees for a barrier, which was already in the plan because my rear property individuals could see it.
Let's stop right there. Is there anybody here in opposition to case V58? Here you're not seeing anybody. Again, it's back to this board. You and Fred have walked the property, talked, hold hands. You know what you're talking about. So let Fred lead the discussion right here.
Yes, sir.
Take over, Fred.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate you trying to give me a friend, but I have to respectfully deny having held hands with the applicant.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. You know, prior military, retired, I mean, I know they changed, but you know.
Very good. All right, so I do appreciate your having hosted me this Sunday, and we did spend a good bit of time back there.
Yes, sir.
I brought I took a few photos, shared them with the other members of this group, and let me just tell you, a couple of concerns were expressed. Number one, apparently part of what we're dealing with here is something of a trib buffer issue or a creek buffer issue. That's something this group is concerned about and wants to make sure whatever's done is done in the right way. I think that concern, coupled with my question to this group, was whether they had ever approved of a variance without being specific as to the precise location of where the accessory structure was going to be, and I think the answer was no. So respectfully, what I think we're going to have to do, well, we've heard your request. We understand your neighbors are generally on board with what you're trying to do out here. I think what we're going to need for you to do is to get with your contractor and try to bring us maybe a couple of more definite proposals so we can try to find a way to make this work as to where he can efficiently. We understand your concern is the total cost of preparing a slab of this size, given the topography and any other parameters of your backyard. And we think what we're going to need for you to do is to meet with your contractor and come up with a couple of efficient or relatively efficient ways to get that done. And then if you could bring them to us, then we could make a fair determination on this so we can plan appropriately and make an intelligent decision.
Well, on that, sir, I mean, like you and I discussed, that's one of the things I'm somewhat trying to avoid because I don't know who I'm going with on the grade, depending on the building also, and I'm still interviewing companies for the building, you know, and to be able to just sit there, you know, and come in and they grade it, you know, because, you know, like the first variance, when it was done, it didn't work, you know, and so when they start, and that's, you know, two of the companies, even the guy who cleared the land, you know, their concern was with the way Cobb County is set up, having to put the pylons and everything like that on there, you know, until, because you got to be, what is it, I think Mr. Peterson, 12 feet by 12 feet, you know, in the virgin soil and, you know, all this other stuff, you know, the requirements I'm trying to read and, you know, educate myself on, until they actually grade it and move it, you know, they won't know. So to bring a proposed, say, hey, you know, I could all day long, you know, come up like next month and say, ladies and gentlemen, this is where the building goes. But then when they start cutting the land, it may have to move, you know. And I don't know. I mean, I'm new at the thing, but that's my, you know, thought pattern on it.
There are folks called landscape architects. There are folks called civil engineers. I would recommend you consider one of those. If you want to go with just a contractor, that's fine. A lot of them are quite capable of making those determinations. But you've got, right in front of us here, we have a topo with elevations, so folks can kind of figure out where dirt needs to be added.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be all that terribly difficult, but I think that will enable us to make an intelligent decision rather than considering all the possibilities and trying to grant a variance, which is
Right, because the variance.
kind of a floating concept.
Right, the variance is going to fit within those parameters in the building. And, you know, I understand y'all's, you know, status and everything, but, you know, I don't, I think it's kind of, you know, to, you know.
Let me jump in here a second if I can. Mark, well, we understand what your problem is.
Yes, sir.
And it's an unusual problem. We have never been faced with this before. We've got a whole group of staff people out here that have to look at every variance that comes in.
Yes, sir.
And in order for them to do it, we've got to have some parameters. So here's my suggestion. If you got a surveyor to survey exactly what you just told us with the setbacks already in place, to show us that survey, then we have something to show to staff. You can go anywhere inside of that once you show the survey. So that would be the simple solution, to get it surveyed, make it big enough that the staff can get an approval, a stormwater can look at it, the DOT, everybody's got to look at it, and then we possibly could approve what you've presented at that time, and you could build in that survey plot of land.
Okay.
Does that make any sense to you? I mean,
Yes,
we
that's-
can't give you a blanket, we
Right,
just
right.
can't give you a blanket.
What that sounds to me, sir, or, I'm sorry, you're the chairman, I like to address people,
Yeah,
correctly.
Just, yeah, go ahead.
That's basically doing the same thing that I'm requesting, because the
But-
plat that I sent was a survey plat by,
But that doesn't
Okay.
show us what the setbacks are. We're not seeing anything on the setbacks here.
if you look at the,
I think for me, we don't give floating setbacks, and that would be a floating setback.
well, the setback, ma'am, sorry to interrupt you, Ms. Williams, but,
But no, let me finish.
okay, yes, ma'am, go
The
ahead.
floating setbacks are something that would be like your house, if you came in here and told us you wanted to build a house, but you didn't know exactly where you want to put the house. So we just let you float it around and put it wherever you want. When an inspector comes out to inspect whatever you put, he has a plat in his hand, and it shows him exactly where that structure's supposed to be. If it was a floating one, he wouldn't know where it was supposed to be. We need to know exactly where it's going before you can get a variance.
And that's, I don't know if you have a topical there, if I can put this on.
You can put that up. We've got a survey in our book. Yeah.
Because this is the survey plat right here, sir, and that's what I was saying, if you look at the square,
Well, I tell you what, we're gonna give you a pointer and a microphone, and you can explain it to us.
okay.
But I see where you're built, you're over the setback anyway there.
Right, and that's where I'm requesting the 30-foot, because it's a regular 40. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
So the actual rate here on what I submitted, right there, that's the property line of the 40 feet. And that's where I'm requesting actually the setback to 30 feet. And then by the scale right here you see, so it is a to-scale map, the site of where the building proposes to be at. Like, kind of like you're requesting as I perceive.
Anybody else want to make comment here?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the staff comments, Mr. Chairman, under stormwater management, where it says proposed garage location is partially within the 75-foot impervious setback from the adjacent buffered stream. And this is where we're kind of leaving this thing hanging, and it doesn't feel comfortable with me either. A stream buffer determination is recommended, and if confirmed, the structure must be relocated or a buffer variance obtained. I'd like to see that get clarified before we approve.
And the fact, the lot is not special. It has a buffer on it. Dave, come up here. Nothing that we haven't dealt with in all these years.
Dave Braden with Stormwater Management Division. You see there's to the rear of this property, there's a stream. Yeah, it does show up on the county stream buffer map as 50-foot undisturbed buffer with a 25-foot impervious setback, which means any impervious structure needs to be 75 feet from the stream. What my comment reflects is that not all of those were field verified. So it could be that it's not a stream if Frank Gibson would go out there and look at it and say, it's not a stream or not considered a buffer stream, then this comment goes away. But if in fact it is a stream, then the structure can be within 30 feet of the back, but it has to be within at least 40 feet from that northern property line. If it's 40 feet away, he's got it shown all the way to 12 feet, possibly. But if it's located, if it starts 40 feet or more from that north property line or more, it will be outside of the impervious setback. So if we knew more, if he's willing to stipulate that that building will be 40 feet or more from the north property line, then the buffer issue wouldn't be a problem.
And a surveyor could do that. Could the surveyor do that?
Well,
He's
the
already
plan you
had it
have before you
surveyed.
shows the rear setback at 30 feet.
Feet, yeah, but that,
As long as you take off the north 40 feet of that, then if we exclude that, then the buffer issue goes away.
And so then there's no reason not to
does,
pinpoint
but-
where it
and-
is.
Also, if you go back to that other slide that, this gentleman put up, no, your slide, with the, yeah. Actually, on the north side right there, where you got like, I don't know, like this right here,
That's not, yeah,
right, that's not a stream at all.
no, it's the one on the rear,
Right,
not the one on the side.
the one on the rear.
That's the one, right.
Actually, there is no running water in that stream at all unless you get like a huge rain.
but we don't have a surveyor to stamp, to put his stamp and saying that's correct, there is no water back there. We've got to have somebody,
That would need to be Frank Gibson.
That's Frank.
That would not be
Frank
a
has to go
survey.
out.
again, I think you're going to have to go back and you're going to have to organize, scale this thing down and figure out where you're going to put it. I don't think we could give you a blanket variance to do that much work in that property in the back.
Well, I mean, I would be willing to agree to this gentleman here off the 40 feet, because that bottom half down there,
But you're going to have to hire somebody to go and tell us that. And they've got to put a stamp on their survey that
well, wouldn't
that's
that be
correct.
when your inspector comes out that he measures, make sure, and if it's
I
not the
think you
40
got to
feet?
spend your money to make sure that your guy knows before our guy goes out there. That's how a survey works.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, to move that to 40 feet, that's not an issue at all right there, because that's the way, as Fred saw, where the actual property itself slopes down to the furthest, and that was the issue. That came to be the issue once we cleared the trees, and that's why when I talked to Fred, to slide it to the west side, to slide it over to
You
right
see,
here.
we're doing all this guesswork. We're not here to do guesswork. We can't do that right now. We've got to have it black and white in front of
well-
us with a stamp survey where the surveyor puts his name and puts the stamp on there, and that's the law. That's legal. That makes everything legal. What we're doing now is we're just guessing. I wish I could help you. We're really here to help people.
I understand,
I'm stuck. Unless somebody else has any better ideas.
right, because like I said, I mean, I understand what you're saying, sir.
Yeah.
I do about having to do that, but like I say right here, I've already provided, and if you just do that right here and say, put it over here, I think we can get it approved. But I mean, you guys are the individuals who make the choice. And all I can do is just, be at your mercy on it,
All right. Fred, do you have a comment?
Yeah, just the one comment I'll make before making a motion is just simply that my colleague from District 3 has suggested that perhaps it would be beneficial to have Mr. Gibson from the county take a look at this and
I still don't think,
Frank would go out and determine
but
if it is running water. And if it's a
I'm not putting
stream.
words in his mouth, but he is willing to stipulate that he's not going to put this building within the buffer. He's going to make it at least 40 feet from the northern property line. Then my comment goes away. You just need to decide if you want to let him have the rest of the room to slide. Because he's already said he'll do it more than 40 feet from that northern property line, which is shown in the plan, yeah. So my comment is non-issue. Frank doesn't need to go out there if that's the case.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
well,
So then my question to the rest of this board for discussion is whether or not there's any interest in approving a kind of a variance in gross, for lack of a better term, in an undefined area. And I know there's some opposition to that concept, so. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'll make a motion at this time that we hold this for 30 days and ask you to try to come up with a plan that more specifically shows us where this is going to go, whether that's through meetings with contractors, landscape architects, and civil engineer, whoever you choose to use to help you efficiently locate this, and then we'll be able to make a call. And part of what goes into that process and these plans, and what would be beneficial for us to know, is whether the pathway to this from the existing driveway, which are coming down, and there are two driveways in your property, and there's a drive going in front. So we anticipate the driveway from which you're going to access this accessory structure is going to run around what is in effect the northeast side of your house. And so what we need to know is whether or not you intend to use gravel or whether you intend to use paved structure to get to the accessory structure, whether that's going to be a gravel or paved roadway or bed. And these folks would have to get us some comments on that revised plan. So you'll have to get that back to the county. Typically, we don't even necessarily get comments on a revised plan, but in this instance, I would like to see a more definite plan. If it's going to take you more than 30 days, let us know, and we'll try to have it held for a longer period of time. But we're trying to help you. We're just going to need to see something more definite before we do. So I'm not really inviting more comment right now. We can talk later, you and I can, but at this time, for the purposes of this body, my motion would be that we hold this for 30 days.
All right, I've got a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any comments? We're really trying to help you. I think if you come back and present us with another survey, stamp survey with where you think this thing's going to go, give yourself some latitude how you can play with it a little bit. We're willing to do that, but we've got to get we've got to get it all right.
Right.
And as I said in the very beginning, we've never seen this before. You're brand new. You're chartering new waters with us.
You know, sir, that's like this device right here that I have so I can walk from the military.
Yeah.
This was the very first one ever issued in active duty.
Well, God bless you. That's
I
great.
mean, I'm a trendsetter. I just got the VA actually Monday
Yeah.
to issue me one, the first one ever in the VA. So I'm used to being a trendsetter, and I mean, that's, you know, I'm great with that.
Well, I kind of
So
like you.
let's start something new. Let's approve it.
You get yourself knocked down, you get right back up and spit right in my face, but that's the way to
no,
get it
I
done.
wouldn't spit in your face.
No, I
But
know.
thank you for your service, though. Thank you for your service.
Thank you very much.
Thank y'all. I mean,
Absolutely.
you know, y'all serving here and everything like that. But Fred, I will get with you.
And get us the information. Then we go back through all our little guys that do the work. They're the ones that do the work. We just sit up here and try to bring it all together.
Well, let me ask you a question there, sir.
Yes, sir.
Being,
I got
you
a
know,
motion, I got a
for
second,
my
I know.
edification and stuff like that, when I come back because I'm being held, do I have to go through and do the whole $150 again, the variance fee,
No,
the
no,
whole
no,
9
no,
yards?
no,
I
no.
mean,
We're not going to ask you for any more money. We're just going to ask you to bring in better
stuff. Okay.
looking surveys.
And if you don't mind, Fred, I'll get with you offline to see exactly what I need, because I'm understanding, but I want, you know, what you need to make this work. And so
I
I'll get
appreciate
with you.
that, and I look forward to it.
Okay, now, how do I just call the?
We're getting
We'll do
way
that.
ahead of
Okay.
ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
We're
That's
all
right.
gonna
I'm
make
sorry, you're
contact.
approving it. I'm sorry.
And listen, we're all willing to come out there and walk your property, hold your hand, and do the whole thing. If you want us to do it, we'll do it. I got a motion, I got a second. Any other comments? Not hearing any. Call for the vote. There you go, ladies and gentlemen, 5-0. We're going to approve, we're going to hold this for 30 days
Almost there.
until our next scheduled meeting. If you need more than 30 days, please let Mr. Peterson know or Fred know, and we'll help you there.
Yes, sir.
Thank
Too
you.
easy.
Thank you for all you
Appreciate
do
your
for this
time.
country. Thank you, sir. John, tell me where I am now.
That completes your agenda, Mr. Chairman.
That's very good. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got a couple of house cleaning things we've got to approve. One is the May 15th comments from this board, and also the June 10th comments. I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion, we approve the minutes as presented.
Got a motion, got a second?
I'll second.
All right, let's all vote. There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, it's 5-0, and that completes our business for today. It's not. No, it does not complete our business for today. We do have one more thing pressing, and I almost forgot about, and that's some yard work I got to take care of. John, you want to read this into the record or explain to us what we're doing? Or Bill? All the mics off, okay.
There's only so, when all 5 of them are lit, then it cuts us off. We probably shouldn't have let you guys know that, but that's what they keep us commenting. If all of them are up.
Just one thing, Ashley, this board wants to wish you the best of luck and have a great time in Sparta, and we'll see you again. So take care. Thank you
Thanks,
very
Ashley.
much, Ashley.
Thank you.
No, certainly. When we met with the board earlier this week, I told you I'd been contacted by Mr. Walensky's attorney. He has submitted a dismissal of appeal And so there's no longer, this is satisfactory to the county attorney's office to allow the case to be dismissed. And so we have no hearing actually to be able to hear at this point. So. Acceptance of the dismissal?
Yeah, do we need a vote or anything on that?
Sure, we could do that. You accept it and the case be dismissed. That'd be
Okay, I'll
fine.
make a motion that we accept the dismissal from Mr. Witalinsky. Do I have a second? Okay, all right, let's vote on the dismissal. We've accepted that 5-0, Madam Secretary. That eliminates that particular case. So before this crowd, and boy, we're still crowded in this room, I want to wish everybody that's a father a happy Father's Day coming up, and everybody be careful and be nice, and Cornelius, you stay out of trouble. That's the end of our day. Thank you. See you next month.